Alright then, it's time for Team Battle Olaf. How many Olafs do you actually see in the game anymore? Which one? I haven't actually seen his pick or ban rate, and I'm pretty sure it's like in the 1 percentile. I mean, considering how many champions there are, and considering where Olaf's power level is, I wouldn't think he'd be picked at all. Anyways, I chose to play Olaf in normals just because I wanted to gauge his power level with the new Cinderhulk. I've been playing him with Warrior and mostly Warrior and the Devourer, just to see how strong he is, and I haven't been liking it so far. And the Juggernaut always kind of felt like half of it was wasted on Olaf, so I decided to try the Cinderhulk item, and I'm surprised it turned out rather well. Though it is a normal, I'm still pretty sure the Cinderhulk helps tankier Olaf become a thing. Before, you kind of were forced to go a little bit more AD, since, again, I felt Juggernaut wasn't as useful. And what you're going to see me build this here is a defensive, offensive Olaf. I will be building Hydra alongside Cinderhulk just to help me power farm through everything, melt, and get as much gold as possible. Now, for the experienced Olaf players, you know one thing that Olaf does suffer in is his sustain. It's kind of odd, right, that most champions that have built-in sustain tend to not really suffer from that. I mean, Aatrox does kind of get low, and Fiddlesticks does have mana problems, but you get what I'm trying to say is most of them can shrug it off or build some way to make up for it. Olaf suffers from both sustain and from health sustain and mana sustain, mostly because his mana is terrible. Once his mana runs out, his health sustain goes to hell. But still, though, his ganks provide shitloads of damage, and his clearing is phenomenal. Still arguably the fastest jungler in the game, mostly because he can just rend targets with 2 Qs and then just kill the other one with a few other attacks. The problem is, again, his sustain. He cannot maintain that clear speed. So that's why it's debatable whether or not he's the fastest one. You know, in a perfect world, he would be, right. In the best situation, when all the stars align, he'd be the fastest one ever. Still, though, you see here, like I took the Ranger's Trailblazer just to give me that small boost of mana and to aid my clearing speed just a little bit more. Now, anyways, both top laners teleport down bottom. I know the enemy has no summoner spells left, so I run in there and flash Q, and I managed to clip the Mundo, so we'll easily chase him down. He gets killed by my E. My ultimate makes it so that nobody can stop me. We chase after the Lee Sin. He blinks away with his W, and the Blitzcrank pulls the Bard, but he also flashes. The Bard's ultimate keeps Lee Sin in place, so the Thresh can land a perfect hook on them, and we end up being able to kill the Lee Sin. That was a really good turnabout, and it's gonna, since I was there and it got assist gold and a kill gold, it's gonna allow me to snowball out of control. Now that's one of the positives of Olaf. And also kind of one of the negatives. He's a very snowbally champion. Like if you think a Mumu can snowball, if you think, actually, he's probably on there like in one of the top ones, well, the top ones. So he snowballs like crazy because that's an email. Just ignore it. He snowballs like crazy because he can get really huge really fast, and there's really very little you can do because his ultimate is just going to completely negate your CC and stuff. He's just going to become a lawnmower and tear you to pieces. Now, the thing is about Olaf that I actually do recommend him in ranked, but I have a lot of conditions for my recommendation on that. Notice this. Lee Sin was bottom lane, and I decided to take his blue buff, and I then decided to go push top alongside the KO. This is one of those things I feel is a condition to know when to pressure the objectives and invade. There's a reason why Olaf's recommended item is Poacher's Knife, even though you probably shouldn't build it. Olaf is a very dangerous invader, and he's very fast at stealing, and very fast at counter ganking, and very fast at very brutal at it. I mean, look, I don't even know why the Lee Sin try to do this. Like, even though the Kale's gonna die here, we would butcher them both in the 2v2. Unfortunately, the Kale did die because of the turret shots, but I got a kill and I got an assist for the other one, and we also got a tower out of this. Mundo teleports top, and we come very close to kill him. But however, I fuck up again, and I spacebar my goddamn my screen and end up shooting the Q in different direction. Still though, you get what I mean. Like, Olaf is just very intense of a champion, and you need to know when you'll be able to sustain yourself during the fight or the jungle or whenever. Like, I wouldn't invade unless I knew I'd be able to escape. I wouldn't invade unless I knew I could just kill the enemy jungler. I wouldn't gank unless I knew that if I got counter gank, I'd just butcher them anyways. So, and especially if I had mana and stuff. By the way, this little Blitzcrank Thresh trick was funny as hell. I loved it. Still, though, as I was saying, Olaf is all about intensity. Take everything you can. I mean, it kind of fits the whole Viking motif, right? Like, look here. I just jump on the Lee Sin and I absolutely butcher him. He's down to 1/3 of his health. Bard gets a little too ambitious and gets butchered too. Right now, I am snowballing out of control, and I know there's a lot of snowballing champions, but again, the immortality not immortality, the CC immunity that I get as Olaf will make me very dangerous this game. And again, I recommend him to play in ranked only if you understand the tools you're given with Olaf. I mean, I would normally recommend you only play champions if you understand them, but Olaf is one of those that can completely just snowball negatively if you get shafted early. His early game was completely hand-blasted by the nerfs Riot gave him some time ago. And his mid game is completely reliant on how his early game goes. His late game is God mode though, and honestly, with the kills I've gotten, my late game has been pushed a lot sooner. And of course, Cinderhulk kind of pushes you to that point. Look, I just run in there and with my ultimate, so nothing can stop me. No slowing me down, no nothing. Kennen dies. Mundo gets absolutely hand blasted, and Rob just kind of dies by the AOE. I ended up picking up the kill on Mundo, and I dealt a shitload of damage. That's not going to be the only fight. And, of course, the enemy, I'm way ahead of the enemy team, but look at what I've done to take it. I've been in every place I needed to be. I've taken every bit of CS I can. I stand and fight whenever I can and whenever I know that I'll be able to win. Like here, what the hell is a Mundo thinking? He teleported on top of me. I have the sheer amount of damage just to destroy this Mundo before the enemy team gets to me. And even then, even if they were to get to me and I was fighting with the Mundo, I just sustain myself back up. Like, there's nobody on the enemy team right now that can do anything to stop me. And I know it, and I'm taking advantage of it. So, hell, even here, even if they fought me, I'd probably just turn around and sustain myself back up to full. My next item is, as a result of being so huge and so fed, is actually going to be Blade of the Ruined King. I am going ham on this build. And imagine if this was a ranked team. Imagine if you got 1 or 2 kills as Olaf and nobody stopped you from farming and you were able to get more than 1 blue. No one, you just be a fucking Jesus. Like, look here, I get attacked. Of course, the kill comes in and ults me, but even if she hadn't, they used other rotations already to try to kill me, and they just can't. They cannot do a damn thing. Now, this is probably also why Olaf cannot ever be buffed in his current state. Like I say, he's one of the worst cases for balance in League right now. You cannot have a champion with CC immunity that can snowball as much as he can be allowed to have an early game. It's like it's the Poppy curse, it's the Olaf curse, it's the Tryndamere thing. If the champion has a moderate early game, they will, and they have an extremely strong late game, they will never be allowed to see the light of day. Riot will nerf them. Remember, I forgot who it was. I think Morello said that if anyone ever figures out a way of making early game Poppy a thing, they will nerf her immediately. And that's how I feel about Olaf and Tryndamere in that respect. Olaf's ultimate has like an infinite value, especially against certain team comps. If the enemy team is pretty CC heavy, right? Like, and they can't do a damn thing. They can't use any of that against me. And I'm hyper fed. I'm someone they have to kill. I'm tanky though. I'm uncontrollable. Like, look in here, I pop my ultimate and they can't do anything. They use a lot of ultimates on where I'm fighting, but I just cut them to pieces. Of course, I die once my ultimate runs out, and of course I get chain CC'd, but the point is still there. I killed a lot of champions with very little effort. I know I am fed, but think of it. Think of those cases where Olaf was able just to dominate and farm his lane at top because he had infinite mana in his queue, essentially. they made his early game better. They made his laning better. They made his sustain great, and he was able just to take that into the late game and annihilate people. Still though, that's why I also would recommend him too. If you know his weaknesses, if you know his strengths and how to make them work out, you will get to that point in late game where you can 1v5 the enemy team, where you can do stupid shit like I'm doing right now and destroy the enemy. Hell, even if I were to die right now in this situation, which honestly I am going to, like right now I kill the cannon and then the Lee Sin proceeds to beat me to death, it's totally fine. I went 3-4-1, though I think Blitzcrank also died. I killed so many of them before I was finally dropped. That in a team fight setting, that is essentially a win. That will proceed you to get to towers, objectives, or whatever. So yes, Olaf is definitely one of my top champions in recommendations for ranked, if and only if you know how to play him perfectly, which, to be honest, isn't going to be common for a lot of players. Look, like here, you know I'm a very patient player. I'm a very careful player. But when I'm playing Olaf, and especially when I know that my Olafness has been unlocked, I just go fucking ham. I go crazy. I go bloodthirsty. So yeah, Olaf amongst the top there. But if you want to learn Olaf, I guess the better champions to play would be someone like Elise, honestly. I know it sounds odd, but Elise has the same kind of ideas that where you have to be, careful with your abilities and make sure they actually land, and then you go in for the kill. Olaf's the same thing. Like or Master Yi too. Just anything where you have to judge the situation perfectly for you to go in. Like, look, I went right in. They did nothing. They couldn't stop me. I went right into a wave of CC, and I just kind of laughed at them. So, as far as the Cinderhulk goes, I do think it made a huge impact, but bigger impact than the other items I could have done. It made me tanky early. It allowed me to maintain my killing potential and my clearing speed. But it won't make Jungle Olaf viable. Lane Olaf, he still has sustained problems with his Q, and until they ever fix that or they decide to alter his power in some way, he'll never. I don't think you'll see the light of day in a while. I mean, in some time, unless by the stars aligned, the enemy team has a CC heavy team, and you decide to pick Olaf. This was normal blind pick, so I didn't even know they were going to be take that kind of team composition. But in ranked, if they did, I might have considered Olaf even then, because I'll just laugh at their crowd control. So yeah, again, to reiterate what I said, if you're an experienced jungler and you know when to invade and you know when to gauge when there will be a counter gank and if you can survive it, I would recommend learning Olaf. He just snowballs out of control. And unlike champions like Master Yi's Snowball, there's nothing you can probably do to stop an Olaf less run away, right? His ultimate look, there's just nothing. I do too much damage. I know I am hyper-fed, of course, but I kind of got myself hyper-fed, right? Either way, I got too much damage. They can't see me. I just restore myself to full health. It's beautiful when you get fed as Olaf. So yeah, it was a fun game with friends, and I know it's normal and it's not always the best representation of the strengths of a champion, but at least you got to see what happens when an Olaf gets a few advantages and I pressure the enemy team. The key points in this game was when was Lee Sin being bottom lane, and I took a blue buff, I went to top tower, and I made sure to help push it. Either way, hooray for Olaf and hooray for Team Stonewall, yay!